In some waterfront cities, there are stairways that don't behave like normal stairs. They drop in long, clean runs, sometimes wider than the street behind them. Some are built from heavy stone blocks. Some end abruptly at a wall. Others descend toward water that isn't there anymore. And the strange part is how practical they look. Not decorative, not ceremonial. They look like working infrastructure, the kind you'd build if you expected weight, traffic, and repetition, day after day. Then you find old dates attached to them. 1874 shows up more than once in local records and plaques. Sometimes in renovation notes, sometimes in a survey line. But if these stairs were meant for boats, the shoreline doesn't match. The harbor doesn't match. Even the water level doesn't match. So you're left with a contradiction. Why would a city build massive maritime steps to reach nothing? The official explanation is usually simple. The stairs were for pedestrians, or for flooding, or for public access to a riverbank. Sometimes you'll hear they were part of beautification projects, built when cities wanted grandeur along their waterfronts. That explanation accounts for some things, but not this. What's missing here is the consistent overbuild. Because these stairways are not just a little bigger than needed. They appear scaled for cargo, for large objects moving down toward the water, for crowds that weren't occasional tourists but workers, teams, schedules. And there's another detail that doesn't fit. In several places, the steps are worn in patterns that suggest dragging, not strolling. The center lanes are smoothed differently than the edges. The corners are chipped where something hard seems to have struck again and again. That could happen from normal use. Could. But it raises a question. What kind of pedestrian access produces industrial wear? Stand at the top of one of these stairways and try to imagine the human scale. A normal staircase is narrow because it only needs to pass bodies. These are wide enough for parallel movement, side by side with space left over. Some of the landings are so deep they read like platforms, not resting points but staging areas. And the slope often feels deliberate, not too steep, not too shallow. It's the kind of grade you'd choose if you were controlling descent, managing load, or moving wheeled frames. If the goal was simply to reach the water, a ramp would be easier. If the goal was decoration, a smaller stair would do. But these feel like a solution to a specific problem, and that problem appears to involve mass. In a few waterfront districts, you can find old mooring rings set into stone near the stairs. Sometimes they're dismissed as later additions. Sometimes they're simply not discussed. But they're there, embedded like the stone was poured or set around them, not drilled afterward. You also see cutouts, slots, recessed areas that look like they once held timber beams or metal rails. None of this is proof of anything, but it suggests intended function. And once you notice it in one place, it becomes harder to ignore elsewhere. Because the pattern repeats. Different cities, different countries, similar stair geometry, similar oversized landings, similar heavy stonework placed right where you'd expect a working waterfront to be. In some locations, the stairways face what is now a road, or a park, or a line of warehouses that have been repurposed into apartments. The stairs remain, but the water access has been removed, as if the shoreline stepped back, or as if the shoreline was redesigned. And the redesign is rarely explained in a single clear narrative. It's described in fragments. A filled canal here, a reclaimed bank there, a river improvement project that straightened or narrowed something that used to wander. The official story usually says this happened gradually. But the built environment doesn't always feel gradual. It feels like it was built for one waterfront, then forced to serve another. That's where 1874 becomes interesting. Not because it proves a date, but because it keeps showing up near transitions. In repair records, in city engineering notes, in references to improvements and regrading, in mentions of new embankments, new quays, new seawalls. And if you follow that thread into the archives, you run into something that feels oddly consistent. Gaps. You can find maps before. You can find maps after. But in some cases, the detailed intermediate documentation is thin. The kind of plans you'd expect for major infrastructure changes are summarized instead of shown. Or you find them described but not reproduced. Or you find references to surveys that don't appear in the public bundle. The line items exist. The actual drawings are missing. That absence doesn't prove anything by itself. But it changes the feeling of the investigation. Because for large waterfront projects, the paper trail is usually heavy. Permits, cost overruns, political fights, engineering debates, contractor disputes. Instead, you sometimes get a calm sentence. Embankment completed. Channel altered. Stair access improved. Improved for what? And improved from what? When the records do get specific, the language turns technical fast. Words like reclamation, infill, dredging, consolidation. Terms that suggest moving entire landscapes. But the descriptions often avoid the most obvious question. If the waterfront was altered, what happened to the infrastructure built for the old one? Why not remove the stairs? Why leave massive stone steps leading to a blank edge, or to a place where the water would have been, if the shoreline still matched? The cleanest break usually appears around the moment the waterfront becomes modern. You can see it in photographs and postcards where they exist. The earlier images show open edges, exposed stone, and structures that look like they touch the water directly. Then later you see uniform walls, raised promenades, straightened lines, railings. The messy working edge gets replaced with a controlled face. And somewhere in that transition, the narrative changes tone. The stairways stop being described as primary access points and start being treated like leftovers. Decorative relics, old steps, historic stair. The words get softer, the function fades, and in some places the dates get blurred. A stair might be labeled 19th century without a year, or old quay steps, or pre-industrial. It's an odd kind of disappearance. Not the stairs themselves. They are still there. It's the meaning. So the question becomes less about whether these were Tartarian or whether a forgotten civilization built them. Those labels can distract more than they help. The more uncomfortable question is simpler. If these stairways were built for working maritime use, what kind of maritime system required this much access, this much stone, this much repetition? And why does that system feel larger than what the local story describes? Because when you look at the scale, you start noticing the secondary details. Doorways near the waterfront that are unusually tall. Basement openings that align with old street grades instead of modern ones. Windows that sit too close to the ground, as if the ground level rose after construction. None of these details prove a hidden past. But together, they suggest a landscape that was altered after a period of heavy use. And once you accept that as a possibility, even temporarily, another question appears. If the shoreline was reshaped, what happened to the old shoreline economy? The boats, the loading routines, the storage patterns, the labor, where did it go? It didn't have to be destroyed to disappear. Could have been replaced, redirected, renamed, reclassified into something less visible. But the stairs remain, like fixed evidence of an earlier set of assumptions. Assumptions about water level, traffic, and access. And the year 1874, sitting quietly in the margins, begins to feel less like a construction date and more like a boundary, a before and after, a point where something was improved, so completely that the earlier layout became hard to reconstruct from public records alone. That doesn't mean a single event happened everywhere, but it does raise a question about coordination. Not conspiracy, just timing. What kind of pressure makes multiple cities reshape their working edges in a similar way, leaving behind functional remnants that no longer fit the new story? And why do the explanations stay so broad? If this was ordinary urban development, why do so many details feel unaccounted for? Why do the stairways look like they were meant to handle weight? Why do they align with older grades? Why do the archives feel thick in some places and strangely thin in others? Why does the shoreline in certain cities feel like a second shoreline built on top of the first? Maybe there's a straightforward answer sitting in a file nobody looks at anymore. Or maybe the answer is scattered across 100 small changes that, when combined, make a past that no longer matches the present. But the stairs don't care which explanation is correct. They stay where they were placed. And every time a modern pedestrian walks down them toward a river that's been pushed away, or a harbor that has been walled off, the city repeats a motion that might have once meant something else. If you've seen stairways like these in your own city, you can leave the location in the comments. And if you want to stay with this investigation, you can like the video, subscribe, and keep watching what turns up next.